Well folks, we're back in the Security Breach saddle at long last, because Steel Wool recently revealed the gameplay trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Ruin. This is the DLC promised almost a year back by now, with which we have had total radio silence in terms of what it would be about. The most we knew about Ruin before going into it is that it most likely took place after the events of Security Breach, and as Steel Wool put it, they were going to be focusing on making the DLC more reminiscent of the daycare and endomaze parts of the game. That's very good news to hear, especially in regards to how those are two parts of the game that people agree are strong in gameplay and horror. But now that the gameplay trailer is out, we might have to see just how much of that is true. I also want to highlight that this is considered the gameplay trailer, which to me sounds like they might release one that's not as gameplay focused sometime in the future, although I admit that's just speculation. So let's get into this trailer. It's definitely a big one. I won't be going frame by frame like I did with the FNAF movie teaser, because this is still Security Breach, a game we've already played. I'm just going to go over any new content or interesting content to be returning. So let's start with the overall decrepit state of the Pizzaplex. At the beginning of this teaser, we actually see our main character, Cassie, enter it during the day. This isn't something I've seen people pick up on, but I find it a very odd scene to start the trailer off. Unless she enters like right before sunset, this whole scene feels like it shouldn't be happening in a game called Five Nights at Freddy's. By the way, our main character this time around is named Cassie, a very interesting name given it's never cropped up before. Numerous theorists have tried to figure out who this girl in the initial teaser poster was, but now it definitely seems like Cassie is a new character. However, some have pointed out that the name Cassie can be a shortened version of the name Cassidy, which is the spirit haunting Golden Freddy. Cassie also sort of sounds like Charlie, who is the ghost inside the puppet. Is there anything to it? Honestly, I don't think so. I think this is probably a red herring, but it's interesting to say the least. Anyway, we hear some dialogue from Gregory, who is Security Breach's main protagonist, and he's explaining that he's trapped in what was left of the Pizzaplex. He doesn't have time to explain how he got in, just that Cassie needs to help him out. I'm definitely noticing a lot of subtle details in how Gregory talks and addresses Cassie, so take notes. For starters, and most obviously, Gregory and Cassie definitely know each other. Gregory knows Cassie by name, and as we'll find out later, Cassie knows Gregory as well. Something else of note is how this dialogue starts, with Gregory hoping Cassie gets this message. It's not a live conversation, this is something Gregory is leaving behind for her. I have my own thoughts on Gregory and what he's doing there, and we'll talk about that later. For now, let's talk about some exciting scenery. For starters, Gator Golf is shown off from a couple of angles, as well as the daycare, the endomaze tunnels, and what looks to be the sewers. We do see what appears to be the elevators in the atrium, but I don't believe we see any of the actual atrium in this trailer. As these scenes go by, Gregory says something that seems a bit odd. He says, "Save me, Cassie, please, it's so dark down here." First off, that sounds kind of out of character from Gregory in Security Breach if you ask me. I mean, the dark never really seemed to bother him in that game, but then again, maybe he just didn't show it. What really threw me for a loop though, was Gregory saying it's so dark down here. Down here? Where is down here? The sewers? The old pizza place? Something's up and I'm not sure if we can trust Gregory. More on that later. Next up, we get our first look at Roxanne in what appears to be the beauty parlor, if I had to guess. Ironic because, well, look at her. This new Roxy design, who I'm going to call Ruined Roxy, looks phenomenal. I like all the new character designs we've seen so far, but more on them later. For now, just be happy we're once again seeing some actually scary character designs at long last. Next up, we see Cassie with what appears to be a Fazbear walkie-talkie of some kind, or a tool. It's hard to tell what exactly this item is, but we'll see later on it can connect to certain machinery. We then see the return of the Glamrock Endos. This one seems to be in the gift shop of the daycare. Then is our first look at Ruined Chica, and she's missing an arm and most of her leg, as well as what's remaining of her other arm, as well as the top of her head. We have yet to see her face, but she seems to be the most unchanged in regards to her shattered versus ruined design. Next, we see the security station that was teased on securitybreachtv.com, which definitely seems to be some kind of camera system. The cameras this time around are arranged in this much smoother HUD than the base game, with improved visuals in an achromatic palette. After this, we see some kind of machine with broken wires that Cassie sticks her walkie-talkie thing into. This is probably some repair minigame a la Bioshock if I had to guess. But then we get a very interesting scene. Once again in the beauty parlor, we see Cassie call for Gregory through a Roxanne walkie-talkie, and she tells him to run. This is very interesting to me, and I feel like I kind of see where this beauty parlor scene is headed. I have a feeling that Cassie finds Gregory in the beauty parlor, or at least that's where he tells her he is, only for Roxanne to arrive, and that's when Cassie tells Gregory to run. Up next is a torn up staff bot, and the reason I bring this guy up is because of the markings on his body. More on that later. Next, there's the back kitchen area at Gator Golf with a new look at Ruined Monty, who looks so damn cool in this trailer, I swear. Then there's Cassie actually riding the Gator Golf ride. I wish this was in the base game, but something I haven't seen anyone point out yet is that this is taking place over the catwalks, and you can see that most of the room underneath it is totally flooded with that same greenish water that we saw flowing out of the mouth of the gator head earlier on in the trailer. The next major scene is of Monty's new jump scare, which actually has Cassie try to force his mouth closed, but he overpowers her. I think it's much more grisly to actually have Cassie fight back like this and still lose. I think it makes for a very strong addition to this game's jump scares. Being real, the originals from this game were not very good, or at least not worth a discussion. We then see a scene which myself and others in my friend group have discussed, that being this animatronic right here. They appear to be under a collapsed girder and are laid over a staff pot, but with the lighting and the fact we can't see their head or hands, it makes it hard to tell who it is. From what we see here though, it looks like it could very possibly be Glamrock Freddy. This makes some sense to me, because why would Gregory return to the Pizzaplex without him? However, I think there's a reason why they don't show his head, and we'll get to that later. Our next big scene is the reveal of the ruined daycare attendant, and let me just say, this guy is looking amazing. I love that Sun and Moon have now combined. It makes him way more unpredictable, and in my opinion, scarier. And then there's the thematic relevance of it, which we'll get to maybe in a different video. But first, we get this new look at an item which seems to be the Help Wanted Vanny mask. Some have pointed out that it's very odd Vanny's final mask did not end up looking like the one we see in Help Wanted, and I'm thinking this is why. It was being saved for Ruin. This mask seems to cause some sort of pink and red glitchy effect when worn, but its application is still unknown. And then the final few frames of this trailer we see... who is it? What is it? More on that later. Well, that's actually a lot more on that laters, so let's get to theorizing, because I have a lot to say about what I think will happen in Ruin. First off, the question on everyone's mind has been whether or not Gregory is actually in the Pizzaplex, or if it's a trick. In my opinion, I think it's actually both. I think Gregory is in the Pizzaplex being stalked by the animatronics just like Cassie, but I think someone else is aware of this as well. Why do I think this? Well, for starters, Gregory says it's dark down here in the trailer, although the scene where Cassie actually calls out to him appears to take place in the beauty parlor, which is on one of the higher floors of the Pizzaplex. I'm thinking that we may be looking at a situation where Cassie is going to be led around the pizzeria by the real Gregory and the fake Gregory at the same time, especially if the primary communication Cassie has is a walkie-talkie. For those who don't know, the Mimic, or Burn Trap as you probably know him, is specifically able to mimic voices through radios and walkie-talkies. So anything we hear out of walkie-talkies, or presumably out of that radio, is subject to scrutiny. Next up, that animatronic that could be Glamrock Freddy. I'll be blunt, I have no idea who else it could be. The reason they didn't show him off, however, in my opinion, is because his appearance will probably reveal too much. Maybe he'll have purple eyes indicating he's under the control of the Mimic again, or maybe, just maybe, he'll be missing his head. If that's the case, then that would pretty much confirm the Princess Quest ending as the canon ending to Security Breach, and that would be a huge revelation, especially given how many people now accept Burn Trap ending as canon, myself included. For whatever reason, I think showing Freddy off would be a spoiler, and that's why they kept him hidden. Next is that Vanny mask, because I do have my own sort of theory surrounding that. First of all, I consider that maybe the character you play as in Help Wanted is not Vanessa, but instead Cassie. However, the voice of your character is much older and very different than Cassie, so I don't think that's the case. I think this mask was used by Vanny at first, before she upgraded. I think what we're looking at is Vanny's mask, but it's an older one. Assuming Vanny is still around during Ruin, maybe Cassie has her older mask after finding it somewhere. If that's the case, then it becomes a question of what does it do? Here's my theory. This is your Glamrock Freddy replacement. Think about it. It's like the FNAF 2 mask. If you wear this, then animatronics won't be hostile towards you. However, the longer you wear it, the higher the probability that the Mimic will take over and you lose. That's my thought anyway. And lastly, is what the hell this guy is. Well, first off, he's a rabbit character, so almost definitely related to Afton. The reason I pointed out that staff bot earlier was because that staff bot has very similar markings to this character who we see at the end, almost as though it was meant to connect the two. And in that case, I'm totally calling Mimic on it. But how? Well, upon brightening the images, you start to see some more detail, and this is what specifically caught my eye. That to me looks like a Glamrock shoulder pad. The Glamrocks all have these sort of chevron shoulder pads, and looking at this, that looks to be the same shape. So is it possible then that this is Glamrock Bonnie? I think it's possible. However, looking over the shape, it could also very well not be a shoulder pad and just a piece of the torso, and I'm stupid. More interesting to me is how this general head shape looks pretty unlike any rabbit we've seen so far, with the exception of maybe Burntrap and Springtrap. By all accounts, I'm convinced this is Burntrap or the Mimic with an upgrade, and as far as I'm concerned, there's a decent chance that upgrade came from Glamrock Bonnie. And that's that. All my current security breach theories based on the Ruin trailer. I'm super excited to see this DLC finally drop, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Absolutely all answers are welcome here. This is fresh, this is new, and I'm excited to see what theorists do with this trailer, and any other teasers we get leading up to it. Now that the trailer's revealed, I have a feeling we're going to start seeing a lot more of Ruin soon. Until then, I'm DMuted. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my streams every Friday at 1 PM EST. Until then, peace.